Coffeeville, Alabama, a small town, quiet, peaceful, a place where time seems to stand still, and the hustle and bustle of modern life feels like a distant memory. Nestled deep in the heart of the South, it seemed untouched by time. The town's charm lies in its simplicity, with old-fashioned storefronts and a close-knit community that welcomes visitors with open arms. Ancient oak trees draped in Spanish moss lined the streets, their gnarled branches creating a canopy that whispers secrets of the past. Their branches cast long, eerie shadows, dancing in the moonlight and adding to the town's enigmatic aura. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of pine needles, a heady mix that clung to your senses and made you feel like you were stepping back in time. But beneath the tranquil facade, a darkness lurked, whispers of a creature, a legend, a tale passed down through generations, growing more elaborate with each retelling. A mystery that haunted the woods surrounding Coffeeville. The dense forest seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for the next chapter of its story to unfold. Coffeeville held onto its secrets tightly. The townsfolk, though friendly, were guarded, their eyes betraying a knowledge they dared not speak aloud. Locals spoke in hushed tones of the creature. They called it Bigfoot, a mythical beast, or something more sinister. The stories varied, but the fear was palpable. The truth remained hidden, shrouded in generations of folklore and fear. Each family had its own version of the tale, each more chilling than the last. But the stories had a way of persisting. They lingered in the air, in the rustle of leaves, in the creak of old floorboards. And sometimes the legend became all too real. Sightings were rare, but those who claimed to have seen the creature spoke of it with a mix of awe and terror. Was it a guardian of the forest or a harbinger of doom? The mystery of Coffeeville remains, inviting the curious and the brave to uncover its secrets. Dale wasn't a superstitious man. He was practical, grounded in reality, and always relied on what he could see and touch. A mechanic by trade, he found solace in the tangible. The world of nuts and bolts, of engines and gears, was where he felt most at home. The clanging of metal, the smell of gasoline, the satisfaction of a well-repaired engine. These were the constants in his life, the things he could always count on. Hunting was a pastime, a way to connect with nature and put food on the table. It was a tradition passed down from his father and his father before him. He respected the woods, but he didn't fear them, not until that night. The night when the forest seemed to come alive with whispers and shadows. Dale was a man of simple pleasures. A hearty meal cooked over an open flame, the warmth of a campfire, and the peace that came with being alone in the wilderness. A cold beer after a hard day's work. The way the cold bottle felt in his hand. The way the first sip seemed to wash away all the day's troubles. The company of his loyal hound, Buster. Buster was more than just a pet. He was a companion, a confidant, and a protector. The quiet solitude of his porch swing as the sun dipped below the horizon. It was his favorite time of day, a moment of reflection and calm. He was known in Coffeeville as a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He was always there to lend a hand, to fix what was broken, to help those in need. He was a pillar of the community. Dependable, trustworthy, the kind of man you could count on in a crisis. But even the most grounded individuals can be shaken to their core. That night in the forest, something changed for Dale. The shadows seemed darker, the whispers louder. It was as if the forest itself was trying to tell him something he wasn't sure he wanted to hear. The sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows through the dense undergrowth. The golden hues of the setting sun painted the forest in a surreal light, making every leaf and branch seem almost magical. Dale and Buster made their way deeper into the woods. The familiar path twisted and turned, leading them further away from the world they knew. Each step they took seemed to echo in the quiet evening air. The air was still. The silence was broken only by the crunching of leaves beneath their feet. Occasionally, a distant bird call would pierce the silence, only to be swallowed up by the vastness of the forest. Dale had been coming to this spot for years. It was his sanctuary, a place to escape the hustle and bustle of life. Here he found peace and solitude, a chance to reconnect with nature and himself. But tonight, something felt different. A shiver ran down Dale's spine. The forest, usually so welcoming, seemed to hold its breath as if waiting for something to happen. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made his heart race a little faster. Buster, usually full of energy, whined softly at his side. The dog's ears were perked up and his eyes darted around nervously, sensing something that Dale couldn't see. Dale scanned the tree line, his hand instinctively resting on the rifle slung over his shoulder. He had brought it for protection, but had never felt the need to use it. Tonight, however, he felt a strange sense of foreboding. He dismissed the feeling as nerves. He'd been out here countless times before. The forest was his second home, a place where he felt safe and secure. There was nothing to fear, or so he thought. But as the shadows grew longer and the forest grew darker, Dale couldn't help but feel that something was out there, watching and waiting. The dusk deepened, and the forest seemed to close in around them. The once familiar path now seemed foreign and menacing. Every step forward felt like a step into the unknown. Dale and Buster pressed on, their senses heightened. The bond between man and dog was strong, and they drew comfort from each other's presence, but the feeling of being watched never left them. As nightfall approached, the forest transformed. The trees, which had seemed so friendly in the daylight, now loomed like dark sentinels. The path ahead was shrouded in shadows and the air grew colder. Dale's determination grew. He had faced many challenges in his life, and he wasn't about to let fear get the better of him. With Buster by his side, he felt a surge of courage. Together, they took the final steps into the unknown, ready to face whatever awaited them in the heart of the forest. This was an evening Dale would never forget. The woods were growing darker by the minute. Dale decided to turn back. As he did, a sound pierced the stillness, a deep guttural howl. It wasn't like anything he'd ever heard before. It seemed to come from the depths of the forest. Buster whimpered, his tail tucked between his legs. Dale's heart pounded in his chest. He felt a surge of adrenaline, fear. He couldn't explain it, but he knew something was out there, something big, something dangerous. He gripped his rifle tighter, his knuckles turning white. He had to get out of there, now. As Dale and Buster hurried back the way they came, the sounds followed. Heavy footsteps crashing through the undergrowth, the snapping of branches. The creature was moving with terrifying speed and agility. Dale could feel its presence closing in. He dared not look back. The woods were alive with sound. Whispers seemed to emanate from the trees themselves. Dale's mind raced. He had heard the stories, dismissed them as local folklore, but now, faced with the undeniable evidence of his own senses, he was a believer. The legend of the Coffeeville Bigfoot was real, and it was hunting him. Dale stumbled, his foot catching on a gnarled root. As he struggled to his feet, he came face to face with the creature. It towered over him, a hulking silhouette against the fading light. Its eyes, two glowing orbs, seemed to pierce through him. The stench hit him first, a pungent mix of musk and decay. The creature was covered in thick, matted hair. Its arms were impossibly long, its hands ending in what looked like claws. Dale was paralyzed with fear, unable to move, unable to scream. This was it. This was how it ended. Time seemed to stand still. The creature let out a deafening roar, its hot, fetid breath washing over Dale. The sound jolted him back to reality. He had to do something. He raised his rifle, his finger trembling on the trigger, but he hesitated. The creature seemed to sense his fear, its massive chest heaving. It took a step closer, its eyes never leaving Dale's. He knew he had only one chance. He squeezed the trigger. The sound of the gunshot echoed through the trees. The creature let out a deafening roar, a mix of pain and fury. Dale didn't wait to see what happened next. He scrambled to his feet and ran, not daring to look back. He could hear the creature crashing through the woods behind him, its enraged roars echoing in his ears. Dale didn't stop running until he reached his truck. He fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He threw himself into the driver's seat, Buster jumping in beside him. As he sped away, he could see the creature standing at the edge of the woods, its eyes burning into him. Dale's encounter with the Coffeeville Bigfoot changed him. He was haunted by nightmares, plagued by the memory of those glowing eyes. He returned to the site the next day, desperate for answers. He found footprints, massive indentations in the soft earth. Proof, he thought, proof that he wasn't crazy. He told his story to anyone who would listen, but most dismissed it as a tall tale. They had heard the stories, the legends, but seeing is believing, and Dale had seen the truth with his own eyes. The legend of the Coffeeville Bigfoot lived on, passed down through generations. Some dismissed it as folklore, a figment of imagination. But there were others, like Dale, who knew the truth. They had seen the creature, felt its presence in the woods. The truth, as always, remained elusive, hidden somewhere in the dense undergrowth, shrouded in mystery and fear. The Coffeeville Bigfoot was more than just a legend. It was a warning, a reminder that there are some things in this world that we were not meant to understand. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over Coffeeville. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the secrets of the woods. And somewhere in the depths of the forest, the Coffeeville Bigfoot watched, waiting. The legend lived on, a constant reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved.